Hi, I'm Ashley, and this is the corner of the internet where I talk about my knitting and spinning. I am so excited to share that I'm going to be test knitting for Teti Lutsak again. This is my second test knit with her, and this is going to be for her Parnassia Shawl. So she has come out with a couple of versions of a Parnassia sweater, and she's decided to create a shawl in the same pattern or motif, which is inspired by the Parnassia flower. This is a shawl slash scarf. This suggested yarn weight is sport. So this is a shawl that's going to range between 134 and 110 centimeters in length and 12 centimeters in width. And it looks like this can be somewhat modifiable. There is a ruffle option if you want to include a ruffle, or if you don't want to include a ruffle. You can also add or subtract the pattern repeats in order to play with the length of the shawl, and it seems like you can also play with gauge and yarn weight. I have this leftover tuku wool. This I use for the main color in my wood folk sweater. This is a fingering weight yarn. And so I went ahead and sized down in the needles, and I'm gonna go ahead and knit this anyways. I think I should be able to meet gauge with this anyways. And this is a woolly yarn, and so I don't think it's gonna have a problem fluffing up into a sport weight, or it's going to achieve pretty much the essence of what Teti is looking for this shawl. So I'm planning on gifting this to my mom. I think it's something that she would use a lot during the winter, and I know that she's going to love the color. She really likes purples and lilacs, just like me, and so I figured, I'm going to knit this test knit and gift it to her, so I'm really excited about that. And so this morning, it is Friday and I have the day off, so I'm going to head over to a matcha shop. So I think it opened recently, not too far away, and it looks like it's matcha inspired, so all of the drinks have matcha in it, so it's kind of like a coffee shop but with matcha. So I'm really excited about that because I've been really into matcha recently. So I'm gonna go ahead and go over there and gauge swatch for this test knit, see if I'm going to achieve gauge with my estimation, on like sizing down a needle size for the fingering weight yarn. And I'll bring another knit as well, just so that I can do a couple of things while I'm there. So it's later in the day and I'm just going to be staying in for the rest of the evening. It's Friday night, and so me and Angel are probably just going to maybe watch a movie. He might play video games with some friends, and I'll be knitting. And I have both Yaku and Chango with me, so we'll get some footage of them. Chango just got a haircut, so he's very handsome. Yaku did too a couple weeks ago, so he looks pretty different. Since now it's approaching summer, we wanted them to have a pretty short coat so that they don't get too hot. But I am planning on baking a pie, a rhubarb pie. So my Aunt Karen, she has a rhubarb plant in her backyard. It is huge. It's just so amazing. And so me, her, and my mom ended up harvesting a bunch of stalks of rhubarb. I think both me and my mom went home with like 2 huge plastic bags full of rhubarb stalks for each of us. So we had like 4 huge bags. And so I froze some rhubarb. I washed it, cut it, threw it in a plastic bag and froze some of it. And so I'm thawing out some, just like, a certain portion, so that I can cut it up and make some rhubarb pie. I've never baked pie before, so we'll see how this goes, but I'm really excited. I think it's gonna be delicious, and it's perfect for this spring season, and let's see how it goes. Good morning from me and Yaku. It is the next day and I have had some setbacks. I don't know if setback is the right term, but ultimately these are just going to be better decisions for my projects. So starting with the Parnassia shawl that I am test knitting for Teti Lutsak, I ended up gauge swatching with the tuku wool, and I started the shawl. And by the end of the evening, I was thinking, since tuku wool is 100% wool, it's a Finnish wool and it's quite scratchy, I figured this might not be the best yarn to have, to gift to my mom, to have around a sensitive area like your neck. It's great for my sweater. I love my sweater that I made with this yarn, but I'm just thinking that maybe this isn't the right material for a scarf that's going to be sitting on the neck area and the chest area, which is more sensitive, and this might be irritating. As you guys know, the last couple of videos I mentioned that I was wanting to rip back and frog my my waffle loop sweater, and so I did end up starting to do that. This is what I have frogged so far on my waffle loop, And as I am collecting that frog material, you know, I ended up holding two yarns together. So this is an alpaca, a baby alpaca yarn that my parents brought back for me from Peru, along with the easier soft fine, I believe. It's a lace weight, and it's a beautiful match together. And since this is a fingering weight yarn and a lace weight yarn, this is going to meet the requested weight. That's a sport weight yarn for the project. And so I figured this is probably going to be a better fitting yarn for the project, since this is going to be the recommended yarn weight. It's going to be softer, whereas the Tuku wool is a fingering weight yarn. And so I was holding it double, which was making it more of a light DK weight, and I liked the look of it being held double, whereas holding it single wasn't doing it for me. And so I just think that this is going to be a better option. And so I'm going to go ahead and gauge swatch this and see if I can meet gauge. And if not, you know, it is a shawl, so I'm not going to be too worried about the exact gauge, but I'm going to try to get as close as I can, since this is a test knit and I'm doing this for Teti. Next is my Misurina tee. I ended up having to frog the whole project. You know, I was only a little bit down the yoke before I noticed that my color work, I had one row that was incorrect, and it was a pretty significant like portion of the color work, because it was the part where the flower, the stem, and then the leaves start. And so it didn't have that separation between the bud of the flower and then the leaves. So when I noticed that, you know, I tried to rip back to before the error, and tried to like feed my needle back in, but in between each of the repeated motifs, there's a cable braid in between each of them. And so it was just difficult trying to feed it through, trying to catch the, trying to, make sure that all of the color work deviation was going on the needle correctly, as well as where I was in the cable chart. And so I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna frog it and start over. It's not that big of a deal. On top of that, this is the Jagger Spun Fingering Heather. And this is I would say a light fingering yarn. And so when I was knitting it up, I wasn't really liking the fabric that it was making. It didn't seem as structured. So I do have quite a bit left over of this Daughter of a Shepherd yarn that I used for my Paul cardigan. And this is also a light fingering weight yarn, but I have this Easier Alpaca 1 in this gray color that matches it very well. This was actually the yarn combination that I used for my Paul cardigan. And, I think it's just going to give a more girthy fabric, which I think I'm going to appreciate more in this tee. So I'm going to put these two yarns together. This will be my contrast color. This will be my main color. And I honestly like this combination better, this color combination. So although I was disappointed that I had to, change things, completely frog my progress, ultimately I'm actually really happy that I decided to frog and restart these projects with a better option, something that I'm going to be happier with when it comes to the finished object. So me and Angel are gonna go to our favorite coffee shop that's in a small mountain town, about a half an hour away. We used to live closer there, so we used to go pretty often, but now that we've moved a little bit further, we haven't been in like a month, and so we really want to go. We're gonna take the doggos with us so that they can enjoy the fresh air. They have a beautiful seating like patio area that's right next to a creek, so I think the dogs would enjoy that. Sometimes they have deer just like walk up through the creek, and sometimes they're like right in the patio area. Yaku goes crazy. He barks at them. But I'm really looking forward to that. So I want to gauge swatch, cast these on, get them ready so that I can work on that while we're at the coffee shop. I want to get pretty far on the Parnassia Shawl, because since it is a smaller shawl handkerchief type of accessory, Teti has a pretty quick turnaround time for that test knit. So I want to get pretty far on that when we're there. So I might work on that. I might focus working on that while we're there. So let's go. So that's all I have for you in this week's video. So thank you so much for coming along with me as I restarted a couple of my projects. This is my Parnassia shawl so far. Isn't she pretty? Here's that motif. And it is so soft. So I'm gonna do this center pattern, repeat a couple more times. In the pattern, I could either repeat it once more, twice more, or 3 times more. So I'll see how I feel after I do another pattern repeat. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed my footage from me and Angel's favorite coffee shop that's in the mountains. I'm telling you, that place is magical. It is Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. And I will see you on the next one. Me and Yaku say bye.